It and Stranger Things were not really influential on the movie itself, but the fact that they were made at all and successful made it possible to make Scary Stories. I'm sure of that. Because we needed evidence. Financiers need evidence that a movie like this can work economically. And but they didn't have any impact on because Stranger Things is based basically in the Amblin movies of the 80s, and we went to that same source. We just went to the same source. I became the director of the film through Guillermo del Toro. First, he saw The Autopsy of Jane Doe, which he liked, and then he put out tweets about it, that he liked it, and it was fantastic to read. And then 6 months later, he sent me, him and the producer sent me the script for Scary Stories, asking if I wanted to read and possibly direct, and which of course was an honor. And then the script was great. It was so much fun, and I was just the lucky person that they liked for it. No, I mean, it was a very collaborative effort. I mean, the script was there. Obviously, they spent years getting the script right, but we worked on it a lot through the whole process of developing the movie into a shooting script. I worked on it with Guillermo and the Hageman brothers for months to tweak it, because we had another couple of big scenes, horror scenes, that we took out and replaced with another, and we did a lot of work on it. I've been lucky to have been able to work on movies that have a lot of a very good attitude about allowing people's input. So yeah. I don't think European productions lag behind Americans in any other way than maybe budget. There might be that we have lower budgets in Europe, and that helps in America. And it's a very professional industry. Everybody is the best people. I mean, when you get up to the level of a movie like Guillermo del Toro producing, you're surrounded by the very best people on every level. So that's a luxury. And people want to work with him, and therefore they come. And sometimes you have to find other ways of putting together a film in Europe, in Norway, which I know. But generally, I think the only big difference is the money. But I've had, when I shot Troll Hunter and another movie now that isn't out yet, that's called Mortal, I've had a lot of resources also making those films. It's always time. You're always fighting time, and time is money, even on a big movie like Scary Stories. Yeah, you have a lot of people working on that's again, it comes to money. Because a crew on a shoot like Scary Stories, you might be 70 people or 100 people on a big day. And in Europe, that would be 25, 30 people. And you can get things done much faster. There is a lot more people who are moving the lights, who are changing this, changing that. And it's a lot more people building the set and constructing. And you have many more layers of professionals who are fixing things. And that comes down to money more than anything. I mean, it was a fantastic experience. He's such a warm and inviting person as a human being. And then in addition, he's extremely giving as a producer, because he knows from his own experience that a director needs to create his or her own movie. He was supposed to direct this movie initially, but even so, the first thing he said to me was, "You're gonna direct your own movie, and I'm just gonna be here, and you ask if you need help, I'll be here." And I got a lot of help from him. He would be working with the creators of the creatures, for example, on helping make them all come alive in the best possible ways. We would work on the script together. He would help in the editing room. And when I was shooting it, he would pretty much leave me to shoot it by myself. He showed up a couple of days, and we had fun one of the days. I remember we were shooting The Pale Lady, and I have an idea for a shot. So he ran up, and he was directing a few shots that was just like so much fun to do together in a way, which was very unique. But 99% of the time, he would just let me direct my own movie, which was fantastic. I mean, we didn't tone down anything to get the PG-13 rating in the US. We knew what it was supposed to be from the beginning, so we were just creating a film that was for a young audience. And I kind of knew from watching movies I love of this genre, from young Sherlock Holmes to Gremlins to Poltergeist. You know, Poltergeist was a PG movie when it was released, which is even younger. So it was a lot of to create tension. It does not have an age range. You can create tension in a Disney movie, in a Disney cartoon. It's about and you can scare people. There are a lot of scary Disney cartoons, in a way. So it's about creating suspense and tension, and then we can't do gore. If you want to stay in PG-13, you can't get violent and tearing people apart and doing that kind of stuff. But I'm not interested in that anyway, so I was very happy to make this movie because I don't care about that kind of stuff. So we had 45 shooting days-ish, and then we had a second unit that was helping shooting a lot of stuff, so that helps a lot as well. We had a lot of time, but still it was a very complicated movie with lots of little tiny pieces. Like I remember the scene out in the
cornfield.
Yeah, I remember the scene in the cornfield, which we had basically 2.5 days to shoot, and with 2 nights and a half day to shoot the day exterior scene. And it took, it was really stressful but we kind of made it. So yeah. Yeah, we had test screenings, 2-3 test screenings, and yeah, we tried to learn from those test screenings. That's the whole purpose of them. And we did go back and we added some stuff and we changed a few details. We added some close-ups here and a little tiny scene there, and we did stuff that we felt was necessary. The actors we got the same casting director who worked on it, because he's amazing, and I also worked with him before. And his team, they kind of know who the young talents are, and we did a wide search for certain characters. Like I remember Ramon was really difficult to find, and when we finally found Michael, we were so happy. And like Zoe Coletti, who plays Stella, she was immediate. She was one of the very first girls I saw for the part, and she was 16, and she was just a star immediately. She had an amazing ability to be so present on camera. I remember her audition so well, and she's so professional, and so was the other kids. So we did all these chemistry reads where they would be in the maybe up to 4 or 5 in the same scene, and we would direct them, and the casting director and myself would work with them, trying to make it all work, and to select who had good chemistry together, so that would work on screen in the final movie. And I think it really worked. We really found the right people that way. Not really. I mean, the actors came in for the parts that we wanted them to play for, because we kind of saw the way they were and other stuff they'd done. And maybe we switched a few during audition. Can you try that part? Yeah, we probably did that a couple times. But you see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of actors through a process like that. So you kind of have to tweak a little bit. But I think, it was obvious that the guy playing Chuck, Austin Zajor, he had to play Chuck. He was so much fun for that character, and we had a lot of fun doing the casting. It was a joy. Yeah. I remember we did a lot of rehearsals for a few days where we went through the scenes and discussed the scenes. Some of these actors, they don't really like to do a lot of rehearsals. Some of them do, some of them don't. So I have to kind of figure that out. I'm not very big on rehearsals personally. I think that we should try to understand the scene and just rehearse the mechanics of it, very dry. And then eventually, when we actually shoot it, that's when you want your emotions to come through. And it should be almost the first time, ideally, so that the actors really feel it for the first time when we're on camera. But they're so professional. These actors, they were so professional. They were young, 16, 17, 18, 19. And they knew as much about acting as anybody I've ever worked with. And they came up with ideas. They would say, well, what if I do this? Or what if I do that? And we would discuss psychology on a very deep level. I mean, like what would the character feel in this moment and how does it relate to that character? And they would have ideas, and they're so young, and it's just crazy. No, I mean, there are lines that are very fun in the script, and we try them out together, and we say, oh, that's a good line, and the actor plays it well. So why not? Then we're going to stick to the lines. But sometimes you have to change it. Ideally, you found that out before you actually shoot. Ideally, you do it in rehearsals. Oh, that line needs a little bit of a tweak. The actor says this sentence better in this way. I try to massage it so that it becomes more about the actor than the script, because the actor is going to be the script. When we're making the movie, the script doesn't exist anymore in a way. It's the actor that exists. So I try to be as respectful towards that process as possible. And the greatest joy for me, at least, and I'm sure many directors, is to see an actor make a scene come alive, to see the actor just nail it and make you almost swell up with emotions, because it's just so great to watch the moment. And that can only happen if you give the actors a lot of freedom to play. But it's a balance, because you have a camera, it's a very specific shot sometimes, and there is a script. You have to follow the logic of the script. So it's always like a balance. I mean, Guillermo, he loves creatures and he loves tangible, real things. So it was for me, it was a bit scary when I read the script. I was like, how are we going to do this? Are we going to do this CG? But he said, no, we're going to do this real. I have the best collaborators in the world, and I know how to do it. So he would help me. We would select all the right people to do each creature, and he would do it, and he would work with them as much as I would, more even, because he knew them and he knew how to get everything right. So that was a luxury. He's like, as he said, he joked sometimes that he's the most expensive special effects supervisor in the world. So it was that was a luxury to have him throughout the process of creating those creatures. But he loves it. He thinks it's so much fun as well. So it's, yeah. I mean, Marco has obviously done, I think, 4 movies with Guillermo, and he knew him very well. They suggested him immediately. I've been a fan of Marco's work my whole life, or well, at least as long as he's been working in Hollywood, and it was a luxury for me to hear his name even. So I'm just a fan of his music, and then to get to work with him was amazing. And Anna, who also composed a lot of the music, they did it together, gave so much to that collaboration. And sometimes I would even talk more to her than to Marco, and it would be just a really wonderful creative collaboration between the 3 of us. And they would come up with they would do some really crazy version of the music for one scene, and I remember having to tone it down a few times, like, okay, we gotta, they were so creative. They created so much amazing music for the film. I mean, we discussed certain references, and we know that it's a horror movie, so at times it has to be suspenseful, scary music, and sometimes we would discuss where to put silence, where do we put minimalist music, where do we go big, and where do we go emotional. We want a theme for Sarah and Stella, we want this and that, and they would, in a way, it's their creativity. I think that to put yourself in the hands of the composers as a director is one of the most scary things you can do, or wonderful things, because it's their own language. To create music is a thing I don't know anything about. I love film music, but I don't know how to do it. So you're really letting yourself in their hands. And they created these wonderful themes. And when I'm driving around now in Oslo, I listen to the score of Scary Stories because I love it. I think they did such an amazing job. We actually deliberately went for a lot of Marco's music, from The Omen or from Quiet Place, and some other scores that we found, just because we wanted to populate the movie with music that would be in that vein. But anyway, in a way, I let them do their own thing in the end, because the movie has to have its own unique musical voice. Yeah, we wanted to have a very specific language on the choice of buildings and of the choice of environments in the movie. And I grew up with those movies, so from the 60s, from especially the 70s and 80s. And I think we just had a lot of fun creating a world that maybe had some reference, but we didn't really specifically look at 70s movies as a reference. We just kind of looking at the 70s or 60s as a reference. We had to stay within that range anyway, because the buildings have to be from that time period, because or else it won't work. So by definition, it becomes like that. No, they started quite early. Way before we locked the edit. We had the first conversations even before we started, even during the shoot, I think. God, I can't remember anymore. And we had conversations throughout the process, and they would pitch in with temp music that they created in the computer, and we would edit with that, and then we would suggest something back for another scene. What about this, something like this for this scene? And they would give something back, and it would be Marco is so collaborative. He's an amazing person to work with, creating all kinds of choices and opportunities. Yeah. It's very individual from movie to movie, I think. We needed to have a lot of music in this film because it's kind of the music is part of the mood in the film, I think. And there is a lot of uplifts, and there is a lot of but again, a big conversation when it comes to music is really, where do we not use music? Because we have to feel the music. You have to put it low at times as well. We can't just keep it up there. But I know they composed a lot of music for the movie, for sure. I actually prefer to not write. But I will always have my hands in the script at some point, because that's just normal for any director, I think. But I prefer to. I think I'm a better director when I'm directing somebody else's script. Actually, it's weird. I have a distance to it. When you're writing it yourself, you might end up falling in love with stuff that may be not working that well, but because you wrote it, you care more for it. So you don't have a clear perspective. That could be. So it's better to have input from several people. I think the assembly cut, which is very raw, it's just every scene as long as it can possibly be. I tell the editor, cut the longest version of the scene possible, because I want to see everything. When I see the edit, I want to see every shot, every angle. And it's like, it was 2 hours and 45 minutes or something. It's an hour longer than the movie will be. Well, we know that. That's just the process of cutting down a movie. And then we ended up with 2 hours and 20 minutes, and then 2 hours and 10, and then 1 hour and 50-ish. And I think in the end, the movie itself, without the credits, is like something like 1 hour and 40 minutes. And I think that's a very appropriate length. All these movies that I loved in the genre from the Amblin time period, they were that long. They weren't 2 hours and plus. They were an hour and 35, 40. And I think that's a really good length for an entertaining, suspenseful film. I think all my movies have been really short. Trollhunter was an hour and 37. Jane Doe was like an hour and 28 or something, and this one is an hour and 40. I like short, like intense movies. This is the director's cut. This is definitely. I mean, this is definitely the cut I think the movie is. There are scenes that are on the editing room floors. Not so many, but little pieces and things. And we were discussing whether to put it on the DVD, and I said no because I wanted this to be the complete version. This is my version of the film. It was done in collaboration with Guillermo, and I'm very proud of it. And I think we found the right version of the film. But it was this is the director's cut. I think jump scares are fun. I think that it's part of the horror genre. I think this movie is supposed to be fun. You're supposed to wait to be jumped on. And I think that what is very important is that in the books, there are tons of jump scares. Because even when you read a story, you read it and it's like, you're supposed to read it to other people. That's the whole idea of these books. Scary stories to tell in the dark, not to read in the dark. So you sit and you by the campfire or under the covers and you tell these stories to your friend, and it says in the end of the story, and then you turn to your friend and you go boo, and it's kind of, and then you do that and you go boo, you know, and that's supposed to be like that. And the movie is supposed to have jump scares. It's supposed to be a little bit juvenile, if you will, be fun, be. I think jump scares are part of a horror movie. You can make dread and tension and everything without jump scares, but you'll find jump scares in Autopsy of Jane Doe. You'll find it in this one. I don't know. It's part of the joy of a horror movie, I think. I think definitely that's a huge part of a successful horror movie, is to play to the imagination of the viewer. Absolutely. I think that's when you really grab them. But there is a point when you have to deliver something. You actually have to show something. But I think the joy of it is to wait as long as possible, to give them as long of anticipation, because I think anticipation, waiting, is such a big part of the joy of watching a horror movie, because then you engage in, and then, but at a certain point you have to deliver something. I love horror because it is it's a genre that allows you as a filmmaker to create something that is beyond what is on the page in a way, because there is a layer to horror movies that that doesn't exist in any other genre. That is dread, or it's the suspense. It's the way you put the images together, the way you sound. Everything is building and building and building, and you have to be very precise with all these tools. So it's part of, it's so filmmaker driven, the genre. So even though you have a fantastic script, and you have to have a fantastic script, even Hitchcock said, what do I need to make a great movie? I need three things: a great script, and a great script. So it's true, even the most fantastic director of all time will in a way say that. But that said, to eventually make the movie come alive, you get to use all the tools of filmmaking: music, sound, set design, how you shoot, where you put the camera. Everything is important. In a drama, you can shoot an actor from all kinds of angles, and the acting will alone be good enough. It will be enough in a way. But in a horror movie, it's all about the space. It's all about what's the tension, how to build the dread around the actors, and that's so much. It's so much fun. That's so funny. I even bought a new one since then. And I found my VHS tape actually. I think that's one of the most perfect movies ever made, because it's so human and it's so grounded, but it's up against something that is so amazing and so awe-inspiring, and it's done with such beautiful flair of filmmaking. Precision. The way Spielberg directed that movie is so precise, and he did write it himself, so it's really personal to him as well. And you can feel what he's been talking about his life, and you can feel that in the movie. And it's just such and the ending is so beautiful with how it's completed with just the use of music to communicate. And it's Yeah, it's my favorite movie of all time. I was I was in the U.S. and I bought the American version of the very latest 40th edition, which I didn't have. I think there is a groundedness to our Scandinavian approach to thriller, to suspense, to crime that has somehow become a thing. And it seems like people around the world can enjoy it, whether it's here in Germany or it's even in the US. They seem to somehow gravitate towards the realism of it, and it's some really good stuff coming out of that genre. Bright Skies is a movie about a UFO event that took place in Norway. It's still going on actually, but it's specifically the biggest part of it took early to mid 80s. But The Long Walk is the next movie I'm actually shooting. Is based on a novel by Stephen King. I also have another movie called Mortal that is coming out early next year, and that's a Norwegian-American film as well.